How we doing? I am your host, Robert T. Gardner Jr., also known as Dr. Rob. Welcome to Station BOB. And let me tell you a little about thee. I am a kid from a Harlem hood who turned out good. I got educated like I should. Now I know how to help you grow to become the best of your being in life, love, and work. With that said, I am here to provide you with some clarity associated with the perplexity of the challenges in your life, love, and work. So, without further ado, let's get down on it. Enjoy the show. Yes, welcome once again, my friend, to Station BOB, where you listen to learn how to become the best of your being in life, love, and work. I am your host, Dr. Rob, and as always, believe it or not, I am excited and happy to be with you. I just love bringing this podcast to you. So I want to thank you so much for tuning in once again, my friend. And of course, I have this is a special podcast, but I think this is more of a fun podcast today. So after you listen to this podcast, please tell a friend, tell a foe, tell everybody you know to download Station BOB, the podcast, where we provide content to make good people better and sad people glad. And sometimes we might even make you mad. But what we really try to do is enlighten you, inform you, educate you, and just to kind of bring you a positive word, positive idea to shed some light on what might be happening to you or somebody you know. And with that said, today's topic is, can a woman raise a man? Wow, that's deep. Think about that. Can a woman raise a man? I mean, in my travels throughout life, over the years, I've heard that term a lot. A woman can't raise no man, My son needs his father. And yes, that is true. Your son, your daughter, they need their fathers. Our children need both parents. I'm all there with that. But today's question is, the topic of this podcast is, can a woman raise a man? Now, when you ask that question, can a woman raise a man, it almost speaks to the idea that, there's something more to being a man that people are of the mind that a woman who gives birth to a little boy who becomes a man, okay, as I'm saying, some people are of the mind that a woman who gives birth to a baby boy who eventually becomes a man, that for some reason a woman cannot raise a man. So she can give birth to what becomes a man, but they say that a woman cannot raise a man. And so when you speak about a man in that sense, it seems to me that, there must be a deeper meaning to being a man. Like what? I mean, what is a man? For God's sake. Now, and we're gonna explore that a little further about what is a man, because like I said, when I hear that, when I hear people say a woman can't raise a man, it speaks to, the notion, the idea that there's something about a man, something that goes into a man that a woman cannot raise a man. So just off the top, I've done some research on this idea about what is a man. I mean, you hear people say, well, he ain't no real man, real men don't cry. Well, again, what is a man? And just off the top, this is my own unsolicited professional opinion. Dr. Rob says, a real man has some woman in him. He has a feminine side that he is not afraid to reveal, to show some emotions. He's not afraid to cry a little, nurture the children. A man, a real man, if you will admit when he is wrong, and he is also aware of his weaknesses and his strengths. But most of all, I believe, this is just my own belief, and it's probably just based on my own life experience and the way I see it, but I believe a boy becomes a man when he leaves home and steps out into the world and start paying his own rent or mortgage. When that young man, young adult steps out into the world to take care of himself, then no matter how tall, how short, how fat, how cute, how broke, and or how educated he is, then I think you're doing what any man or woman should do, and that is take care of themselves by living independently. Now, that is not to say that, as a man or woman, if after a while you're living independently and you go back home, you wind up back home to stack some cash, because the first time you left home, you ran up your credit cards and created a lot of debt for yourself. And so now you need to take yourself out of circulation for a minute and go back home. So that is not the kind of person that I'm saying is not a man if you have to come back in, go back home. Because it happens. When we first get out there, sometime as a young adult, a young man or a young woman, we might lose our mind. Credit cards, new car, good job, independence, nobody telling you what to do. And so, you can have so much fun that you wind up back home the first time out. So sometimes in this life, we need to take a time out. I did that myself. I didn't go back home, but I went to my grandmother's house because the way she was living, small apartment, not really enough room for me, I knew I would not be there longer than I should be. And, of course, that's exactly what happened. I went to stay with my grandma, dearest, we used to call her. And I was out of there in maybe a year or so. But back to the question. What is a man? And how do we define a man? Maybe in the eyes of some women, is he 6'3", 220 pounds, lean, muscle bound? Let's see how Webster defines a man. Webster says that a man is a human being, an adult male human. Now, that's pretty straightforward. So when you think about that, can a woman raise a man? Well, it seems like that's not complicated at all, being that a man, as according to Webster, is an adult male human. So where do we get these ideas, about he ain't a real man and what it takes to be a real man? Those, I believe, are what we call social constructs. And we'll talk more about what a social construct is in just a few. So I'm so fascinated by this topic, or the question, can a woman raise a man? I just tried to tap into a few sources to see, what what is out there in terms of defining what a man is. And so I already shared my perspective, and I just shared Webster's brief perspective or definition. So I also looked at what is called the Black Law Dictionary. And the Black Law Dictionary is just that. It's a dictionary that attorneys use to look up the meaning of all their legal terms. And so the Black Law Dictionary defines a man as a human being, a male above the age of puberty. That's pretty forward. Okay, but that doesn't tell me much either about what a man is. Right now, as I said, we are trying to see if there is something, is there a deeper meaning to a man? Since, there's a belief, a social construct out there that says a woman cannot raise a man. So let me see what the Bible says about what a man is. So I looked in the Bible. I checked the Bible. Now, the Bible has lots of definitions about a man, how a man can be defined. But we may not have time for all of those interpretations and definitions. After all, this is not about men. This is really about a woman. But we're just trying to have some fun with the topic. So in the book of Genesis 1:27, it says, God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them, meaning a man and woman. Then there's also, the definition as a man as defined by culture. And most cultures, as we know them today, are, patriarchal cultures, which means, pretty much male dominated. And culturally speaking, a man, has, the man is the strong one, the strength, the leader of the family, and so on and so forth. Now, my last definition, as we are striving here to find out what is a man, so much so that a woman cannot raise a man, we're trying to find out, what is it about a man that his own mother cannot raise him to become a man? So I also wanted to check and see what Google said about that. And Google says something close to what Dr. Rob said in terms of the meaning of a man. And Google says, being a man and being yourself, for me, being a man is about self-discovery, building self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and most importantly, my legacy. In other words, what are you going to leave behind as a man? Money, property, or heck, in my case, I'm going to leave my children a good attitude and some self-love, teach them how to survive in this world. And so being a man to me means being unapologetic and not afraid to show the world who you are. Excuse me, I just said being a man to me, but this is still Google's definition of a man. Unapologetic and not afraid to show the world who you are. And that would be a person that cries a little, humbling yourself, nurturing your children, accepting responsibility for your mistakes. Now we're back on my definition. And now that sounds like a real man to me. And the question is, once again, can a woman raise a man? And for me, the answer is a resounding yes. I think for so many of us in our mind, a man is everything but what I described above. In other words, a man provides, protects. He does not cry. Some cases he is not nurturing. He does not and will not ask for directions. And he will not, cannot, and should not be comfortable with the fact that his woman makes more money than him, or that his woman has a better career than him. Now that sounds like a man who was raised by another man. And it doesn't sound like, if that's you as a man, no criticism, bruh. But that's not the kind of man we're talking about. But that is a prevailing perspective of the man in the world as we know it, that social construct, if you will. And you know why? Because men, as described by the Google definition, in many ways or in many cases, do not fit that description that I have just described. And in my own experience as a therapist, as a friend, a family member, my friends, I have some female friends, but most of my friends are men. And I have found that as men, we are insecure, uncomfortable in our own skin. And this is fueled by false bravado and being afraid to show our true selves because of the social constructs created by man that perpetuate this false sense of strength that a man is supposed to have to be a man. And unfortunately, in many cases, many women are of the mind that is the real framework also. I've heard women say, well, I need a man to raise my son. And there may be some truth to that, but that is not the end all for that scenario at all. That could not be further from the truth. So back to the question. Can a woman raise a man? For me, as I said a few minutes ago, the answer is yes. I was raised by a single woman in the early years of my life. My Aunt Sally, a.k.a. Maunt, I called her Maunt because my mother passed away. And she was my aunt, and she played the role as my mother as well, so she was my Maunt. And she did a heck of a job raising me and my cousin brother, Joseph. And I believe that there is not a better, let me just say this, because I've been in church and I've heard pastors say that a woman can't raise a man. I mean, I've heard this come across the pulpit. And to that, I would say, and I wanted to say, but I didn't, just trying to be respectful. I wanted to say that me as an individual, as a man, raised by a single woman, I don't believe that there is no man who was raised by two parents who is a better quality of a man or as a person than me. And I do not say that braggingly. What I'm saying is, and I'm married, so I support marriage. I'm all there with marriage. All I'm saying is, for a pastor to say that a woman can't raise a man, that is like, I really wonder about that. And so, again, I'm not saying I am better than anybody. What I am saying is that I am just as good as any other man who came from a 2-parent home, because my dear Aunt Sally has done a heck of a job, and I am here to tell you so. And with that said, I'm going to step aside and let a promo in, and we'll pick up the topic on the other side.
Relationship Readiness Life and Work Preparedness Services, the place you come to for coaching, consulting, and counseling in life, love, and work. We are a multi-purpose service organization that will coach you up, educate, guide, and motivate you to succeed. We provide management training and consulting services for all businesses in the areas of employee relations, unionized employees, progressive discipline, the annual review process, and emotional intelligence to develop effective leaders for your organization. And our relationship counseling services for individuals, couples, groups show you how to become relationship ready with improved self-esteem, resilience, and self-awareness. To learn more about our programs and services, please contact Robert T. Gardner Jr. by email at changeagentrtg@gmail.com or request a meeting for a free 1-hour consultation at relationshipreadiness.org. Thank you, and let's go back to Station BOB.
All right, welcome back. Yep, that's right. At my business, Relationship Readiness Life Preparedness Services, what I do is provide consultation and insight for anyone at work. If you are a supervisor, manager, or team leader, I can talk to you, consult you about how to manage better, how to lead more effectively, and how to understand the dynamics of the workplace. And if you are someone who is supervised by a team leader or a director, department head, I can also provide you with insight and consultation to help shed some light on any type of work issues that you may be experiencing, and I can help you find a way out of your scenario into a more positive situation on your job. Okay, enough said about my business. Back to the topic. Can a woman raise a man? Heck, only a woman can give birth to boys who eventually become men. And now society says that a woman cannot raise a man. Can you imagine? As a woman, you carry a baby through morning sickness, pain, the medical exams, the sonograms, the emotional turbulence that you feel, the thoughts that go through your mind. You know, will my child have 10 fingers, 10 toes? Will he or she look like me? Will he be cute? Will she be pretty? Will my baby be healthy? You're cooking, cleaning, caring for the kids you already have, working with a sometimes manly husband or boyfriend who does not help around the house, perhaps because he sees that as woman's work. And then you're going to work, getting up every day before you give birth. Going to work every day up to the day before you give birth, riding the subway if you live in New York City, driving the car, dealing with life, dealing with your own emotions. I mean, just to name a few things you might go through as a pregnant woman that you may or may not, have to deal with, because, in other words, there are so many things a woman experiences during her pregnancy that I cannot name them all, and I'm not even going to try. I'm just trying to shed some light on the breadth of the feminine experience during pregnancy, and then for there to be a notion, if you will, a social construct that says a woman can't raise a man. I'm not sure, how he came up with that after what I just shared with you about the journey of a woman during a pregnancy. Now, I'm not a woman, so I don't know the real depth of that experience. But, B-U-T, after all of that, and all of the hours of labor or a C-section to bring that little boy into the world who the world says a woman can't raise a man. That's a whole lot to go through. And then somebody came up with the notion that a woman cannot raise a man. Well, if a woman can't raise a man, then who can? Is it that the kids call dad? Is it that the kids, that guy who the kids call dad, sitting over there in his favorite chair, watching every game of football from Thursday through Monday night, then watches the World Series? Oh, don't forget the NBA season just started. Oh, and don't forget, he's got to go to the gym to get his workout on after all of that. Then it's back to work for him and you to make sure that he makes more money than his wife. So it sounds like the typical man in the typical marriage is doing a great job of raising that little boy to become a man. And just as a sidebar, in the black family, the black community, 3 out of every 4 homes does not have a father figure. Let me say that again. In the black community, black families, 3 out of every 4 homes do not have a father figure. In other words, that is 75% of black households are without a father, a stepfather, a brother, and so on. And if a woman can't raise a man, then by golly, who is going to do it? So please understand that to say a woman cannot raise a man is merely a social construct. And you might ask, what is a social construct? And just for the record, a social construct is a thing, is an idea that emerges with shared experiences, of a civilization or society. It's shared knowledge, and it's the system where we all agree and think that, that's just the way it is. Usually, with social constructs, there is no logic, for instance, to say that, a woman, can't go to war and serve in the military. A woman, could not be a police officer. A woman cannot be a fireman, a postman, and so on and so forth. Social constructs are just those notions that society has put into place by just over time through shared knowledge, shared ideas, shared thinking, shared perspectives. And these perspectives turn into systems that are the basis for communication, cooperation, and just peaceful coexistence. In other words, society, members of society, during the evolution and the process through time, decides what the natural order of things are and how they should be. It's like racism is a social construct. Now, some 400 years ago, some white people decided that black people are inferior. And so be it. We were enslaved, discriminated against, and denied equal opportunity because black people were considered inferior. Another social construct. There is no truth to that whatsoever. So here again, society says a woman can't raise a man. Men are not nurturers. Who says, where'd you get that from? I have 3 children, and I was a very nurturing father. Also, Gay people should not be welcomed and accepted as equal. It's not normal to be gay. All of these things are social constructs. And so, my friends, let's put to bed the myth, that social construct, that a woman cannot raise a man. Because if she can't, then who can? She is not called a woman for nothing. And with that said, what say you? Can a woman raise a man? Feel free to let me know your thoughts. You can email me at changeagentrtg@gmail.com. I'd be interested in knowing what your thoughts were on that topic. And so, until we meet again, thank you so much for riding with me, walking with me, letting me talk with you in your car, on your phone, or your computer. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and please follow and or subscribe to my podcast. And remember, love is an action, not a word, and it's not supposed to hurt. Peace in the Middle East and Ukraine as well. I'll talk to you later.